You're listening to CITW Radio, independent radio from Helsinki, Finland, streaming worldwide at citwradio.com. We've got a very special guest with us right now. From Victoria, British Columbia, lead singer, guitarist. From Cassady, Colin Craveiro, who's got a new track out called Corpse Paint, which we're going to discuss. Corpse Paint by Cassady is available on all your favorite streaming apps, and we'll be playing it for the first time here on CITW Radio right after this interview. But first, Colin, I want to say welcome, and let's get into the new single, Corpse Paint. What's it about? Where did it come from? Let's get the inside scoop.
Well, hello, Joseph. Thank you for asking. And nice to hear from you. It's been way too long, and it sounds like you're having a blast over there in Finland, so that's amazing. Thank you for having me, and thank you also for chatting about Corpse Paint. So Corpse Paint is basically, it's a song that kind of dawned on me that a lot of us have a part of ourselves that we sort of wear on the outside, and we kind of have this idea of faking it till we make it. And I think like everything from tattoos to Botox to makeup to, you know, what you wear, any like, you know, silver teeth, like anything that you do is sort of this projection of what's inside of you or what you want to be or what you want to be a part of you. And so the idea of Corpse Paint is it's this collaboration between meeting people in your life, whether it's a relationship or somebody, and sort of how to figure out how much corpse paint you want to wear when you come into contact with them. And when I say corpse paint, I use that sort of as a metaphor because I'm also a fan of, you know, that sort of doomy, dark death and you know, that dark metal music. I'll have the wrong terminology, but there's so many different bands that wear corpse paint, and I think it's really cool looking. And so I use that as the metaphor for all of us, because I think we deep down have our own version of corpse paint on. And so the song gets into bracing for love and how much corpse paint do you really want to wear when you come into contact with somebody new in your life and people around you as well.
That's really interesting. This concept of like being who you truly are. It's like at least just because I'm familiar with your back catalog, I guess. Like you've mentioned this kind of idea in a couple songs before. Like is it the Old Green House where it's like everybody wants to be who they really are? Is that?
That's right. Everybody wants to be who they wish they really were.
Yeah. So like this theme, is this something that you've like personally just? It's like a wall that you sort of like slam up against as a musician. Like why do you feel like you keep revisiting this theme, or is this just like is this new again?
Thanks. Good question. It's in a weird way new again because it's something that I'm actually sort of starting to figure out without figuring anything out at all. It's like I understand sort of for the first time that it's a complicated dynamic, but I actually was diagnosed with one of the diagnoses that I have is known as DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. And it's also commonly referred to by some as multiple personality. Now, it's not like the movie Norman Bates. I don't sit there and act like my mother and wear a wig at home. But I do feel different. And I have dynamics inside of me that they're known as alters. And so for myself, I keep seeming to revisit this theme because I'm trying to figure out who I actually am. And it's, you know, people with DID, it's a situation where the parts of you look more like a solar system. You have a core, but the planets didn't kind of come together as one. So I sort of march around life like a solar system, and the planets are different versions of myself that were meant to be personality traits rather than personalities. And so When I create music, it's hard for me to stay on track with genre or any aspect of it. And also just being me in life. One day I'll wear a suit, next day I'm in women's clothes, or I have I literally will make up my face in bizarre ways and just go out and act and just be. And it's like a hat that I own that I'm trying to wear. And I find it comes across a lot in my artwork and in my music. But so I think that's kind of why I keep banging my head on that wall, because I'm sort of still trying to figure out who I am, but recognizing that this is my issue.
Do you feel like the idea of constantly changing your persona or your image is part of your artistic identity, or do you feel like it's part of you that's rebelling against the idea of being sort of pigeonholed as one specific type of one specific type of artist? I know there's a lot of musicians that are just like, I'm a musician, or, you know, folk singers that are like, I'm a folk singer. Bob Dylan just got so pigeonholed as a folk singer, but he was also a painter and a writer. And I find personally, I just think it's so much more freeing for like even musicians to just call themselves artists, because there's so many other ways to express yourself. And when people start seeing you as only a musician, you just kind of feel sort of stuck. These things that you do you feel like you're kind of almost like they're like sort of like outbursts against these boxes that you might feel like you're being put in by other people?
Absolutely. I think you actually kind of gave me chills, because this has been something I've been wrestling with for years. And, you know, I was always really inspired by David Bowie, because he did not sit for very long in one place. And people could never figure out what or who or even where he existed in reality, and what and how. And yet he would come up with, you know, when you think of David Bowie, you don't just think of him as a musician, you think of him as an artist, because he was also very much involved in fashion. He was involved in art. He was involved in his own writings. He was involved in just, the list is endless, what he worked on and did. And I think for myself, being called a musician is really tough, because I'm not a great musician. Like when I was younger, I was a piano player, and I will admit I became very prolific in playing piano. But after my car accident, I lost that ability. And so for me to really come back to just being a musician is such a painful feeling, because it's not really what I'm focused on. I strum a few chords on my guitar, but it's like about trying to express these concepts, like the corpse paint idea and everything like that, and also create art with it. So when you say that, like, you gave me chills, because it's exactly been my mission with this new song and prior music. But I think what's hard too is that getting people around to work on this stuff with you can be really challenging, because you are sometimes just working with musicians who are happy to just be musicians. And I respect and think it's incredible, and I'm lucky and honored to be with these people. But I do think it can be challenging, because when I want to go after some pretty insane concepts of art to sort of include with the music, the looks on people's faces sometimes is a little funny. So yeah, long story short, I really do find it challenging to just be considered a musician, because when people say to me, hey, do you want to jam? I'm like, no. Because I'm not really, you know, I'm not going to rip it on the guitar or anything, you know. The guitar is just a means to an end. It keeps my voice in key, creates a structure. But other than that, blah, you know. So yeah, that's how it's kind of seen.
You're trying to tell people, like, this is just one thing that I do. I'm so much more than this, basically.
Exactly. And I think it's like really challenging because people like Victoria is a really artistic place. So I'm going to sort of start off for those that don't know Victoria. I know you know Victoria, but there's a lot of artists and a lot of art, and it's a really amazing city for that. But there's this sort of restraint here, not with everybody, but with a lot of a majority artistically in the city, to really go there and allow yourself to really express your feelings, your nature, and sometimes be really vulnerable. I think there's a fear of vulnerability in a lot of artwork, because ever since social media came along, algorithms became so important to everyone that straying from that really compromised people's true artistic nature. And I'm seeing it a lot today with bands. When I talk to young bands today that are just starting out, we talk as if we're ticking boxes rather than, hey, what inspired you to be an artist, and what's your future going to be in music, art, or whatever you do? Well, we got our numbers, and we're following this algorithm, and we're hoping Spotify will review our, and it's just this thing where I'm like, so I've heard your plan. What about your effing art? You know what I mean? Like, what are you creating here, and why? And so it's been interesting, but I think it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge, because I really see some incredible artists just a little bit afraid to go to that second step of full indulgence in art and expression, right? Like to actually wear the corpse paint, as we bring it back to that, is I'm seeing people looking so shiny and clean so that they're accepted into the fold of what the algorithm allows. And I just, it's hard to watch sometimes geniuses turn into boring, just, you know what I mean? Like just uninteresting, paint by numbers. Like it's I better paint by my numbers so I fit inside this algorithm. And it's really sad, because you see it a lot here. You don't see it, like, it's not in everybody, but it's in a lot of art here. And to me, it's just really boring. And I love places like New York and even Vancouver. Like, you can find artists in Vancouver that are wearing their art because it's who they really are. It's who they actually are. And they just wear it, and they be it, and they are it, And Victoria, I wear my art, and oh my gosh, like, it is so funny, like, how many people just stare at you and go, hey man, what's going on over here? Like, I wore a leopard print shirt. This is really small scale example. I literally went to what is known as like a dingy dive punk rock hipster bar, and I wore a leopard print shirt, and I'm not kidding you. People at like 3 or 4 different tables were like, dude, that shirt's crazy, or what, like, or looked at it and said, man, I could never wear that. Or like, it was just like about my shirt. And I'm like, this is supposed to be an establishment of counterculture. And everyone's wearing like baseball hats, which there's nothing against that, but it's like, you look like you could go golfing, or maybe like to an office job or fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there explaining myself to people in what's supposed to be a counterculture place. And I find that conservative dynamic is really prevalent over here. So maybe it's a good thing to be constantly pushing against that, because it creates this more exuberant search within myself. But I don't know. It was a long answer, but I think at the end of the day, it's how it kind of is.
Yeah. No, I think I get what you're saying. Like, there's no diss to Victoria. It's an amazing city.
No, not at all.
It's got so many amazing artists and musicians and bands and people doing lots of cool art. But there is, I agree, there's sort of like an obvious undertone of like expected behavior, in a sense that because the city is so small and the arts community is so tight, everybody knows, oh, who's gotten big out of Victoria. It's like, it's that like kind of John and Roy sound, you know what I mean? Like that West Coast surf folk kind of vibe. But it's so cool to see and to hear this single coming out of Victoria. I mean, this is, I told you, this is new from you, at least what I know of Sale Cassady. I mean, Man-Made Lake was kind of in this vein, I feel.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I only listened to it once, but it kind of feels like a little bit of a move back in that direction. And I mean,
totally.
If it's just you going back to like authenticity and like being like, I'm going to be exactly who I am and say exactly what I want and feel how I want to feel regardless of my physical surroundings. I mean, this is probably the best thing I've heard from you in a long, long time. So I'm super stoked and I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
What's the plan for the release? Like, what are you thinking? Is this a single or is there an album like accompanying this?
You know, I've decided with a lot of what I'm going to be doing for the next while is kind of be a little bit mysterious, because I think one of the funnest dynamics about this is almost acting like I don't know, even though deep down I kind of have an idea. Like, I think one thing I will say is that there is a ton of stuff that is going to be coming out. Whether it's, you know, contained within a record, that is, you'll have to see. But you will be one of the first to know. But it's kind of going to be world building, and that's probably the best way I can describe it. Is I'm actually creating a little world, kind of like people do with films and movies. And look, it's, you know, I'm not a big old famous top 40 band, so it won't be like world building on a massive scale. But for me, I'm trying to paint a portrait of what this life and this feeling and this character in this song, this idea of the person wearing corpse paint, you know, out and about, trying to create a world that when you listen to the music, you're going to see a lot of art accompanying it, so that when you hear it, it's going to sort of, you're not only going to hear the music, but you're going to feel what I'm talking about. You're going to see what I'm talking about. It's going to elicit a lot of emotions. And also, it can be a song you can go for a run to, but it can also be a song that you can stay at home and hang out and just think about. And so, you know, and look at the pictures and sort of, I'm going to make a music video for it pretty soon. And I'm just going to kind of build a world around it. And then when the next music, which will be coming out, we'll see how it manifests. Maybe I don't fully know yet, but I got an idea and I'm pretty stoked. Like, I'm pretty excited to create this world and invite everyone in, you know, because it's going to ask a lot of questions of you that may or may not make you feel comfortable, in the sense that you'll ask yourself, am I really truly being myself? Am I truly being authentic in what I do? Is everything that I'm wearing as my quote unquote corpse paint something that is really me? And so that's kind of what I'm trying to, that's the question I'm asking. So in long story short, instead of it being about an album or a record, it's more about a concept. And when I feel like that concept or that answer has the opportunity to be answered, then I think I'll know what it's going to be.
We've done a bunch of interviews in the past. I remember we talked a long time ago, and it might have been actually during the Man-Made Lake B-Sides album interview. Mm-hmm. And you'd mentioned that when you were going through that sort of period of your life, that you were kind of, I wouldn't say like obsessed, but you were like intent on becoming famous, sort of as an outsider musician or something, right? Like along those lines. Yeah. Would you say that this new single is something of a statement saying like, I don't care anymore. I just want to make art?
Yes. What a beautiful question. And again, you give me chills in interviews sometimes because it's like you're reading my brain. You're scaring me, man. Yes, actually. It really is, because I feel like what I was doing before was, in a way, doing the algorithm game. And at this point now, I'm like, I think I've even had this saying many times in interviews with you in the past, but I love it. And I'll totally butcher this saying, but I think it's Tibetan. I'm not fully sure, but it's not the transformation of the observer that's important. It's the transformation of the creator. And I think for me, I need to stop focusing so much on being accepted or let in, and remind myself as to why I did this. When I was 12 years old, I used to play the piano until my hands were literally bleeding. Not because I played so hard, but because literally the, elephant tusk keys were like so old and sharp that, after an hour of playing, you would literally get little cuts on the inside of your fingers. And over an hour, you would end up with blood on the keys. And I still have that very piano. And, for me, that was when I was truly, and no one was listening to me. I was alone in this farmhouse playing until I was sobbing, laughing, screaming, bleeding. And it was the most therapeutic, most beautiful experience of my life. I look back on that so vividly. And Thich Nhat Hanh talks about the child within. Maybe in a way too, I'm letting the child within play again. Enjoy being an artist. Enjoy the fact I can even call myself an artist. Maybe it's a little more fun again. And just like you said, I think this really is an I don't care about what anyone else thinks. It's that I'm breaking away from putting this adult, like serious industry perspective and just saying, this is fun. This is who I am. And it is changing me. And it's making me think some deep thoughts. And if anything, for the listener, I hope it does for you too.
Yeah, in relation to what you just said, it reminds me of this Bob Marley quote where he says, the day you stop racing is the day you win the race.
Wow. Damn.
It's so powerful. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I guess there's a lot of things about that in Buddhism too, like just non-attachment and just not caring, I guess. It's, I mean, the people, a lot of people say that the happiest people are the ones with just the least worries, right? So if you're always chasing something, you're always going to be lacking something, and then you're going to feel empty all the time. So
there's also that, like you nailed it. And also, just to sort of support what you just said, when you're chasing something, there's always something in front of you. You're
exactly.
never carving your own path. You're going behind the thing that you're chasing's path. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're not really being super original. And I think that the originality part is so important for healing, growth, and just like you should be scared a little bit. That's the point of why when you see the cover, I look like an old goth metal-y, like who knows? But I wanted it to be ugly. I wanted it to be how I actually felt in that time, and do sometimes still feel. And that was not based on anything more than just the way I feel. You know what I mean? And so, like when my band saw me all done up and we did the photo shoot, you'll get the photos for the rest of the shoot soon, but everyone was just like, oh, that's Colin, he's doing his thing, not sure how to react to it all. And when you see the photos, you'll really see, Joseph, just exactly what we're talking about today. And it's not a slight on my band. They're amazing artists and musicians in their own right. But I think it's something that I'm really trying to do is if I can even challenge my guys, I can challenge everybody, because I want everyone to be uncomfortably inquisitive about who we really are, who you really are, who I really am. So yeah, it's fun.
So what do you think the next step is? What comes after this? I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too much, because I mean this interview is about the current single, of course, but obviously very interested in the like the psychology behind this, because I mean this art life, this life in art goes so much more deep and beyond like just promoting singles and releases and stuff. Like what do you see? What do you see after this? What's the progression from here? Like personally, I mean.
I think one of the things, I'm turning 42, or I've turned 42, and geez, I can't even remember my own age. That's what happens when you get over the age of 40. You're like, how old am I again? And when did I turn this age? But I'm 42 years old, you know, and death has become a really big part of my sort of thoughts, not in the way it used to be, where I romanticized it, but in a real, honest realization that I will die one day, and that death is such a, it's just been created for us as a, like it's hard to explain, but death has been created for us in a way based on religion, ideas, art, whatever. And I want to figure out how death and the end of my life is going to look for myself. And I think what's interesting about art is it's a way for you to sort of place yourself in your existence and truly, truly, truly make sense of why and what you do, and be okay with the steps that you had to take and that you will continue to take towards that final stare. And when we look at the psychology of what I'm trying to create now, it's this idea that I'm realizing that everything around me feels like it's fake, like I'm in some movie or like a documentary like The Truman Show. Not fake in the sense that it's not tangibly here, but I feel like the food we eat, the politics that we get obsessed with, everything around us is meant to do this to our brains and distract us from who we really are. And I think if I could say anything about my art moving forward, it's gotta pull me back into my reality and get me out of the realities that have been created for me, like an opportunity to have a reality already thought of. Like, I don't care anymore about the American politics and the story of the world politics in the ways that, you know, like I'm watching a television drama. I care about it because it hurts our pocketbooks and it affects our lives. That's where I care about it. And I also don't see the food we eat. There's no integrity in our food. It's all based on 1%ers feeding us garbage and giving us sicknesses and diseases. And I see, you know, TV and movies getting cheaper and less real and more video gamey, and even music, like the AI music that is like bands using AI for music is like fine, use it as a tool if you want, but it's a new thing where authenticity and inner self is becoming like an island that is slowly getting smaller and smaller in the distance. And I think knowing that I have, you know, I'm halfway through my life, hopefully, I want to jump off that ship, jump in a little boat and try to swim back to who I am. And I think the first place to look is the child within. Who were you as a kiddo, and what did you like to do? What kind of things did you enjoy? Like, actually sit there, like everyone listening, one day, sit there and try to remember a feeling from when you were a child that was magical, whether it was Christmas morning or just the feeling of a Saturday and you don't have to go to school and you can just like get up and watch some cartoons or go outside and play. There's a feeling that you do remember. There's a nostalgia. There's like a deja vu moment that you can actually give yourself. And so, you know, when it comes to the psychology of the music, I want to go back to that. I want to find where I came from, look for the spirit again, and take off this robotic nonsense and like unwire my brain from it all a little bit and let myself be free once again. And that's, I think, going to be a mission for me and my artwork moving forward.
I think that's a really amazing, like, final statement to leave the interview at that. Now that we're playing the exclusive release of Corpse Paint by Sale Cassady here on CITW Radio, if you would like to go ahead and just give a short introduction and just a brief synopsis of the track before our listeners finally get to hear it.
Okay, my name is Colin Craveiro of Sale Cassady, happily sitting with you on CITW Radio. And Sale Cassady is about looking deep, or not Sale Cassady, Corpse Paint. Corpse Paint is basically a song about challenging yourself to proudly wear your corpse paint as you go out and you interact with humanity in the world. And I really hope that you can, you know, find yourself within this track, or at least give yourself something to think about and enjoy it.